Alright, hey guys, so we are going to be going through and setting up our rig for this little, like, gnome dude. He's kind of like a Rayman character where he has no knees and elbows, which is going to make weight painting a little bit easier in future, so we don't have to worry about how those bend. But our rig will pretty much stay exactly the same as a normal humanoid. Okay, so it's just going to be out of proportion a little bit, because he doesn't follow a normal standard proportion, but stuff still applies. Okay, cool. So, a couple of basics. So I'm mostly going to be using Q for select and W for move when I'm going to be interacting with some of the stuff I'm working with. I'm not really going to be using E, which is rotate, or R, which is rescale. Actually, I'll use rescale a fair bit when setting up controllers, but it's mostly going to be select, which is Q, move, which is W, R, which is rescale. I'm also going to be tabbing between windows a lot, so I'm going to be pressing space to tab out, hover over a window, space to tab in quite a bit. So if you see me just changing between windows, that's how. If you see me focusing on a specific point, so if I zoom out of these and check stuff in weird places, if I hover over the window, press F, it'll put whatever is our object in focus, stuff like that. If I then had something specific, such as a specific face, I could then focus in on that face. Game object. Alright, cool. So F to focus in on a point. We've also got G, which is redo last tool. So if I used a tool and then I wanted to continue using that tool, instead of going up to the bar up here and reselecting it or choosing it from the options, I would then just press G and I'll continue using it as I go. It kind of refreshes the tool and lets me go again. So if I keep using the tool and you're like, how do you do that? It's because I'm pressing G in the background. Feel free to pause and write those down. So that is Q for select, W for move, R for rescale. Spacebar and hover over the different windows to tab between them. G, redo last tool. F to focus. And of course, Control Z every now and then in case I mess something up. Which is going to happen because we're all human. Alright, so from here, normally you start in the modeling options with the modeling, or sometimes you start in the curves and surfaces, but you start on one of these bars. We are normally, if you're doing rigging, would start with the rigging bar, but I'm going to get you to set up your own custom bar. This is you're able to like add things and remove things from this bar and set it up for whatever it is that you're going to be using in the moment and the tools that you're going to be using a fair bit, so you don't have to go searching for your main tools that you want to use. It helps you kind of like organize your stuff for making things more streamlined. Alright, so I'm going to get you to go to rigging, and we're going to set these up mildly in order of like when we're going to use them. So I'm going to go to skeleton, and I'm going to get you to go Control Shift, and I'm going to say create joint. I'm going to get you to hit the box and mirror joint, so this is Control Shift, remember. I'm going to get you to go create IK and create spline, so we're just going to use their defaults. They should be fine for setup. Once they're set up, we would want to do something such as creating a NURB primitive, which is going to be a circle. I've got interact creation turned on, you might not, so if you want to draw it on, like, and do it exactly how I'm doing it, make sure you just tick that on first. If you don't want to draw it and you're fine with it appearing in between the guy's feet, then you guys can rotate it and set it up how you like, but this means I can draw it exactly where I want, then move it and stuff like that. So I'm going to say Control Shift circle. I'm then going to need freeze transform for when we do create the NURB circle. We're going to need to also potentially have the form cluster, because when we use our spline, before we can add control to our controller, we need to then make sure that we've got different clusters to then connect those points across. We then will also need something such as constrain hole vector, which is when we've created the IK and we've created the controller, we can then create a pole vector that will pretty much draw a line between the two like a pole, and wherever we move our controller is where it'll kind of like point and aim our knees, so we have more control over where our knees would be facing and our feet and things like that. Same with our elbows. It doesn't matter so much on this character because we can't see it, but it should stop our character from having our elbows invert and our arms moving weirdly and stuff. The next thing is going to be, I'm going to be like, hey, modify, I'm going to get you to add attribute, Control Shift, add attribute. That will give us the ability to add. I jump over here, select my character. See how you got these different things over here? Your position, which is your translate XYZ, your rotation XYZ, and your size or scale XYZ, plus your visibility on, they're all different attributes. Once we create a controller, it'll have those attributes, but we can add another one. So we would create something such as like a foot roll, where we can then give it different values as an animator so that we can animate it. But to be able to animate it, all right, let's go to animation. You need to be able to have key, set driven key, Control Shift, set driven key. This will allow us to add a driver, which is the controller, and the driven, which is the thing being controlled. So you would have the driver, which would be like our controller, which will be our nerve circle, with our added attribute on it called foot roll or something like that. And we'll be able to change the value of it between like 0 and 10, for example. And then 0 would be like set up so that it's flat like this, and then 10 it might be like set up so it looks like it's stepping. That would give us the ability to be able to create a mini animation before animating to give ourselves more control. So we don't have to place the foot every time we try to do a walk cycle or a run cycle or something like that. We can just change a value that's already preset up for the animation, and we'll just be like 0, 10, 0, 10, 0, 10. And then he's got this like whole like foot roll thing happening. We don't have to animate it every single frame we want to change it. We just set the numbers, let it do its like little thing in the background. Alright, so that's pretty much mostly it. When creating our beautiful joints, we would be mostly focusing in these windows here, and that would allow us to draw specifically on certain axes, as opposed to just randomly drawing and not really having full control of where they end up in our perspective. So you want to make sure you do it in one of your like views that has a locked perspective of either front, side, top or back, like front, yeah, pretty much like left, right, front, back, up, down, yeah. You can change if you accidentally mess something up, such as you end up with just a bunch of perspectives or a bunch of sides. You can change what you're looking at by holding spacebar, right-clicking on the word Maya, and changing what camera you're looking at. Just in case you mess up your cameras in future, you can just fix that yourself. Okay, so we're going to start in this one here, which is our side view. So, okay, I'm going to also get us to change our joint size because that's going to be too big for me. So I'm going to go to modify, display, animation, and then joint size. And then I'm just going to bring that down to like 0.25. I think, 0.2. Oh, my number lock's not on. 0.25. Okay, that explains it. Alright, so that's itty bitty now. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to go somewhere around his hip, somewhere around where his knee should be, somewhere around where his ankle should be, this top section of the foot, his toe, and the tip of the toe. You're like, but Jamie, I can't see it. I'm going to press Q so it selects off for a second. Yep, you can't see it. If you turn on this, that is X-ray mode for the joints. That'll allow us to see it. The other thing you could do is maybe turn on X-ray for the actual model so we can see through our model. Give us a little bit of control. Technically that joint shouldn't be there. So if you create a joint that you don't want, I've decided like against it because I was going to give it more control for bending. But technically our foot should only be in one spot, so it shouldn't have that because that's not how your bones work, Jamie. So we're going to go Control P, which is unparent. So I'm just going over the basics at the moment for you guys. Select the joint we don't want, remove it. Select the child, select the parent, shift select the parent. So select the child, shift select the parent, press P, and it will then reconnect those bones and create the joints that we want. So I have worked out that I actually don't want that there. So I'm going to shift P and shift P, and then I'm just going to place this a little more where I think the ankle should be, and then I'm going to go up this way, parent it, shift, and reparent it. So it's now creating more of that type of shape. Okay? Alright, once you've done that, I'm going to get you to also move it so it's in position. So I'm going to set up the same thing on both of these. So I'm going to go so we can see through them. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my little dude. I'm going to make sure I've got this open here, which is our layers, or show hide channel box, which will give us our layers. Once we select our little dude, I'm going to press the paper and the ball, which is literally create a new layer. And then I've put him in, and this is going to be model. Alright, cool. Save. And then I'm going to lock this bad boy, which means I can't select him. And now we're only working with the rig. So we don't have to worry about moving our mesh, messing things up. He's locked, he's away, he's now in the background. He ain't no problem. Alright, so I'm just going to x-ray all of my things and make sure I can see my bones in all my things. It'll just make life easier in the long run. Okay, so from here, I'm going to move this over. So it's sitting roughly where I need it. We then want to mirror this bone over to the other side. So that's where this mirror joint comes in. And there's like 3 different types of mirroring. I'm pretty sure I'm going to want YZ, but we'll see in a second. So at the moment it's XY. We want it to mirror orientation. If I hit mirror, we can see that it is flipped, reversed, but in the wrong place. Oh, too far. Alright, Control Y lets you redo last thing, by the way. So we want to tell it to mirror for the YZ. Yep, so that's going to do that for us. Before we do that, we're probably going to want to name our bones. So let's name our bones. So we're going to select our first one over here. It's not joint 1 anymore. This is going to be right underscore hip. Then we go to the knee, and that's going to be right underscore, shite, missed clicked, underscore knee, right underscore ankle. I'm dyslexic, so if I spell it wrong, just roll with it. Spell it correctly on your end. Right toe base. Right toe tip. Okay. Now, when we mirror this over, I'm going to show you a nifty little thing. Ready? So if we click the mirror tool, we already know that we want it on YZ in our orientation. We're going to search for the word right and replace it with the word left. So the way that I've set this up, yes, this is your left, but this is his right. Okay, so my naming is going to be opposite. But now we've got left hip, left knee, left ankle, left toe base, and left toe tip. So that allows us to name things a lot easier, where we literally just make and name one side of his body, mirror him over for the other. Once we've got that, I'm going to create his spine. So we've got joint, and I have a habit of giving him a little tailbone, which is his root joint. We then have where his hips connect. So that's going to be there. And then we can go through and start creating his spine. This is going to be where his shoulders connect, base of his neck, top of his neck, top of his neck, top of his head. Alright. I'm just going to name those. That's going to be... So we're just going through and naming them all at the moment. Can't remember what I've named them, so. Hello. Is it 5? 4, 5. Bottom of the neck. Alright, cool. So they should all be named. Okay. So at the moment we've got this kind of happening. Which is working. Alright. Cool. So if we have a look in our hierarchy, we've currently got all that happening. We're then going to kind of join these all together so that they connect. So I'm going to select his legs. So shift select both legs. Shift select the bone you want to connect them to, and then press P, which will parent them together. You can see this in the hierarchy over here, where we've got the spine, and at spine 1, which technically, instead of spine 1, I might go through and rename these. So spine 1 is going to become hip center, so we understand. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so yeah, so we can see how they all kind of open up. Awesome. So, yeah, so we've named them all. We're happy with how they're named, we're happy with how they set up. From here, we're going to go through and we're going to set up our IK. So, we've got this bad boy here. We're going to select him, then we're going to go from our hip to our ankle. That'll create an IK, which means we can bend our leg. Okay? So without it, if we try to bend our leg, it's very difficult because the bone stretches and stuff like that. So to be able to select it, we select the IK, which is the orange line, not the bone. If you select the bone, it'll still do that weird thing. Alright, if you select the IK, it's like a ligament. It allows us to bend it and stuff like that. Okay? Alright. If your leg's a little more straight, sometimes you have the weird, like, your leg will bend backwards. So, for example, if I lift my foot up too high, it'll bend backwards. Using a pole vector, it'll kind of force it most of the time to be in a specific spot. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to press G, redo last tool, select our hip, select our ankle, creating that IK. So that gives us that control. So from here, we then lift our leg, and our foot's a little floppy. We have no control over our foot. So I'm going to get you to go through and create some IKs going from our ankle, to the, oh shit. Control Z, all of that. IKs. There we go. IK. Select from here, select to there. G. Select from here, select to there. G. Alright. Selecting our IKs. We can't really do much with these at this point in time. It'll make more sense in a second. So that'll give us control over our foot. Okay. So to be able to get control over this, we're going to use something that's known as a reverse footlock. Okay? Give us a little bit more control of our feetsies. So we're going to select our joints, and we're going to go from our heel to the tip of our toe, to just behind the base of our toe, to just behind our ankle. Okay? That is going to be our reverse footlock. So remember, I didn't mention before, but the first joint you put down is the one that controls everything else. So if I rotate this one here, everything moves with it. If I rotate the next one, everything attached to that moves with it, but not the base. So it's a hierarchy system with the joints. I know you probably already understood that, but just checking it out there. Okay, from here, we are going to move this bad boy, then duplicate him over. So I'm going to move him over. also going to rename him. Right. Reverse footlock. Heel. Right, reverse footlock. Toe. Tip. Oops. My mouse is being weird. There we go. Yep, cool. Alright. Selecting the next one, and we're going to go toe, base, ankle. Alright, so once we got that, we can then mirror him over, and that'll allow us to do this whole thing with mirroring left and right and changing the names of everything. Once that is done, we can, with Q selected, select our IK, shift select our joint, and if we press P, we are now parenting these IKs to these joints. Okay, so now if I was to, why is my select being weird? There we go. If I was to rotate this, you can see that we get control of our foot and we're able to like bend it. So we can kind of create a roll of our foot, and when we go to step off, we can put weight down on our toe, and you will be able to see it bend at that point that we put the weight down, which, as you know, when we walk our toes, we do have that spot that bends, because that's how the body works. If you don't, I am mildly disturbed. Alright, so we're going to do the same on the other side. We're going to, I've got Q so that I don't have any of the other things showing up for our little widget. Gizmos, things like that. Alright, so I'm going to select our IK, shift select our joint, P to parent. Select our IK, shift select our joint, P to parent, IK, joint, P to parent. You could technically press G once you've started parenting. That works as well. Alright, this is where I'm going to save it. I'm just going to chuck it somewhere, so I'm just going to be like, yo, save as. You can name it whatever you want. Make it ASCII. Save. Continue. Alright. I'm also going to delete all my history so far, because I don't want anything to crash. I don't trust my computer. Save again. Okay, so from here, we're going to want to be able to set up some controls around his foot to be able to animate him moving around. So I'm going to jump here, going to draw, and I'm going to draw myself a nice little sphere. Alright, so I'm going to select this, press W, be able to move it around and stuff. I'm going to press D. I'm going to then slide this directly back to the back section. Press D again to unselect it. That allows us to move our pivot point. We're then going to, in the move tool, which is W, we're then going to hold down Q and we're going to snap it to our back heel. Okay? Might want to make it a bit bigger, so I might rescale it a little bit. Okay, cool. From there, I'm going to press Q again. Right click and hold, we get control vertex, which then allows us to create and these little dots which were already there, and we're able to edit them. I'm going to select them, press R, totally just bring this in around his foot, because yeah, why not? Alright, I'm going to then select off, go object, cool. So with this, I'm going to freeze my transform, so bam, freeze transform, you can see that everything zeroes out. I'm going to duplicate, V, snap it again to the back of the heel, and I'm going to freeze transforms again. Okay. So this one's going to be right foot controller. And then this one here is going to be left foot controller. Okay. We are then going to also add an attribute. So we're going to say add attribute, and this is going to be keyable. It's going to be a float, and I'm going to say that it is a foot roll. Cool. G, redo last tool. I should probably say which type of foot it is. So I'm going to say that this is a left foot roll. Okay. Can I modify, edit attribute, foot roll, new name, right, foot roll. Alright, cool. Still foot roll. Okay, so with this, I'm then going to grab the back of the heel, shift select my foot and press P, which means anywhere I move my foot is where that's going to go. So, because our bones are going to be inside our character, and that means it's going to be like this, so we're not going to be able to see them. So we want to be able to select this controller, which will allow us to lift up, move our foot, rotate our foot, change where it's angling, things like that. Okay. From there, we are going to set up our set driven key. So I'm going to select our foot, and we're going to go set. Okay. So this is our left foot controller. So this is our driver. So we're going to say load driver. Got our foot roll. And we're then going to select these joints in here. So we've got, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Alright, so we got our, I want to load it a different way. There we go. That's better. Oh, shit. Load driven. Load driver. Okay, cool. So if we select these, we can control what's happening on those. If we select this, we can control what's happening on that. So, set driven key, you select the controller for our driver and all the bones for our driven. Alright. We're going to go through and select our left foot roll. We're then going to select all of these and all of those, and we're going to say key. So at 0, our foot should be flat. And then we're going to go to our foot roll, and we're going to set it to 10. And at 10, this is where we got to work out how our foot's going to be. It's hard to see without it being weight painted. So I'd probably suggest weight painting it in the future so you can see it perfectly. Alright, yeah. Cool. So therefore, if I minimize that, if I select this, set it to 0, it's normal. You can see that we have the ability to like change its value, and it changes where the foot is. So you'll be able to add more, make it more detailed, have it so that like the foot has a positive and a negative. So I'm gonna quickly bring that. Oh shite! Too big. Abandon. All right, foot roll. If we make it -10, we can then set it up so that like our foot rolls backwards. Hang on. It's not how foot works. Yeah, okay, cool. And then we'll just key that there. Alright, so then if I close that, potentially, we can then go, hey, buddy, how's it going? How's it crack-a-lackin'? Should probably make that, like, bigger, but yeah. So we've got, like, that foot roll happening. Alright, cool. You then do it to the other side, and both will be set up. So we'd be able to select this. We can always check what the other one's values are. So, and then we'll go, yo, let's set driven key. We want this to be our load driver, and then we want to select all of our joints as our driven. We want to select our right foot roll, select all of these and select the translate to rotate, and then we're going to key it at 0, key. Okay, then if we select 10, there we go. We can then set different things up. So if this is set to 10, this bad boy rotated that much. And that is our toe base. So we want our toe base to rotate that much. So I'm going to say key. I set that to 10. I hope I set that to 10. Yep. And then if we go to -10, this bad boy, set him to -10. So I know that I moved the heel. So if I go Q, select my heel, I can see that a lot of things have changed. So I'm going to go heel. Rotate that up. I then, was it this one or that one? I think it was this one. Rotated my toe tip down. And I also changed how this was sitting, so I'm going to steal that as well. So, cool, we can then say key. That should be all of it. So for both of them, I hit shift. Actually, just individually do it. And if I jump into my side view, I should be able to see if I set this one to 10. If I set this one 10, they end up roughly being in the same spot. Yep, and then if it was -10 versus this one's -10, it's slightly off, but practically in the same spot. So, yeah, it's close enough. Bit harder to tell. So I missed one of them when I set it up. I set something up mildly wrong with the rotations because I didn't remember where I put it, but it's practically there. Alright, so that works. Cool. So I'm going to set that back to 0. Oh, maybe because I didn't set that one. That's probably why it didn't work, Jamie. Alright, cool. Okay, so they're both set to 0. Awesome. Alright, so we're going to then set up our controllers for our knees. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to create a circle. This is going to be my knee. It's going to be where my knee is targeted and looking at. So I'm going to want this beautiful bad boy in front of where my knees are. I'm just going to V. I'm going to snap it to my kneecap, which I can't see because I zoomed out. There we go. Then I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to go V. I'm going to snap it to my other kneecap. I'm going to select both of them and I'm going to move them forward because we don't want our knees to pass them. I'm also going to freeze their transforms. I'm going to name them because naming things is handy. And this is going to be, instead of NURB circle, this is going to be knee controller. But it's going to not be any old knee controller, it's going to be our right knee controller. This is going to be our left knee controller. Hell yeah. Alright. So it's been a while, so 30 seconds. I'll explain what to do here. Don't follow until I tell you to. So something like that, and then okay. Oh, that and that. Yes. All right. Cool. So, all right. You are going to select your controller. You're going to shift select the IK handler. You're then going to press your pole vector constraint, which will create a pole vector for your leg. I just realized that I think I have more than one set of bone there. Do I? Do I not? No. Just my pole vector stuff. Alright, that's all good. I was just confused by the what it looked like. Alright, so I'm going to select my controller, shift, select my IK, press G, and therefore we get some control over that. So now, if we were to move this controller, you can see that my knee turns where I need it to look. So now I've got control of where my knee goes. So I can literally, basic setting up of an animation, I can move this, well, technically, we would go, hey, totally like step there, and then it would start to lift our foot up, and then this would start to lessen to like, what, 5, and then this would start to like move forward, and that would be, by the time it moves forward, it would be something like a 0. I'm not animating at the moment. And then it would start to go into like -10, and it would like start to come down. It would start to slide back as it went back to 0. Yeah? So you would be able to create your animations from that. And then this means if he squats down or turns, runs, anything like that, you have control over where his knee points. So if this beautiful thing is behind, it'll do some weird things and invert his kneecap. Yeah? Which we don't want. So that helps us point our knees where we need them to go. Alright, so that was part 1, setting up the legs.